Hi, welcome back to Windcraft's Insider Reviews. Today we've got a brand new Hanse 418 to take out for a shakedown sail, which is really cool. This boat's right at the final stages of its commissioning process, so our service and commissioning team have been flat out assembling, testing, fine-tuning and putting this boat through its paces to make sure it's ready for the new owner, which is going to be handed over in the next day or two. This is our final opportunity to take the boat out for a final shakedown sail. She's already been out a couple of times. She's already had the instruments calibrated, the sails checked, the running rigging sorted, all of the electrics done. Huge amount of work that goes into getting the boats ready for the handover day. So she's very, very close now, and this is our final opportunity to take her out and make sure that everything is 100% on the boat. The sun's just coming out. We've got maybe 10 to 15 knots of breeze coming through. So welcome aboard. We'll jump on and take her out for a sail. So before we head out, there's a couple of things that I'll point out about the 418 in particular. It's actually amazing how much room the cockpit does feel like it's got. I spent a lot of time recently on a Hanse 458, which is obviously a bigger boat, but the cockpit area really doesn't feel all that different in terms of space. It's a real nice, clean, simple layout on here, and there's a couple of really nifty features that Hanse have done, which make it pretty unique and a really versatile layout. Really, really handy having seats to be able to sit on at the back here. When you're sailing downwind, for example, whilst you're motoring the boat, it's actually a really comfortable, safe spot to sit comfortably. Whilst you're sailing upwind, or if you're really embracing that sort of sailing experience, you're much more likely to be tucked over at the side, something like this, to be looking down the nice clean lines of the boat and sailing it. But again, whilst you're motoring the boat or sailing downwind, it is handy to have seats to sit at. But the clever thing that Hanse have done is made these pop up, so that when you do then get in to anchor, when you're trying to have a nice relaxed day in the marina, having your lunch, having a swim off the back, the whole area opens up to make it a lot more spacious. So it's a simple but clever feature. Now, something else you'll see, she obviously looks brilliantly sparkling clean and fantastic, but one of the cool things that's becoming more and more popular are these carbon Nautical wheels. Now, as I might have mentioned in another video, despite the name Carbon Nautica, they're not actually carbon, they are fiberglass, but they're still considerably lighter than the steel and leather trimmed equivalents. And in this dazzling white, they look very contemporary and very cool. Up until recently, my favorite was always the dark black wheels, but now I can't help but think that that looks awesome, particularly on a boat like this. So they're really, really nice feature. Obviously, you can get the traditional stainless steel leather trimmed version, which is a great wheel to have as well, a nice solid thing, but these do add a slightly racy, sexy vibe to the whole boat. So as you'll find on all of the Hanses across the range, the sheet management system and the line management system as a whole is a very cleverly thought out and simple system. On either helm side, you have all of the lines run below the decks, right back under these halyard covers, right back to the helm position here, so that all of the lines are really accessible from whichever helm station you happen to be at. This boat has an Inmars furling system, which we'll come to and we'll demonstrate when we get out and take it for a sail. But the Hanse Easy Sailing system really does make it super easy for a single person to manage this entire boat. So we'll try and show you some of the tricks and some of the hints for how you sail a boat like this single-handed when we get out there, because you'll be surprised at just how easy it is. So here we are on the new 418. As I said, this boat is just about to be handed over to its new owner. So we've got a chance to go out, put it through its paces and make sure everything on the boat is 100%. It's also not a bad part of the job, coming out on a sunny day like this with 14 to 15 knots of breeze to go for a sail. I'll just talk you through some of the simple elements that we're going to do initially. So the first step is to prep the boat for getting the sail out. Now this boat has an in-mast furling system. We've got our furling lines on this side right by the helm station here, so I'm just going to open those up. That's a continuous line. that is responsible for furling or unfurling the sail. So once I've got those open and I've got a little bit of slack in my main sheet, so I'll just open that up, make sure there's enough slack on that, point the boat head to wind, obviously making sure there's enough space around, and then over to the outhaul on this side, simply pull the sail out. Obviously having it in the jaws of the winch helps. So it's as simple as this. As long as you've got the boat set up ready to go, point her head to wind, and out she comes. Nice ease as the wind takes her. You can just feel her accelerate. Beautiful. So that's all there is to it, to getting the sail out. Like I say, we've got something in the region of 20 knots, 19.4 knots at the moment. So it's a fair amount of breeze. Full sail is fine for these sorts of conditions. Depends obviously on your experience, but you'll very quickly get used to handling the boat in significant amounts of breeze because of the simplicity of the layout. This boat's fitted with a folding prop, which is an option which I recommend every true sailor should go for because it makes an enormous difference to the drag that you have under the boat. And there we are now on a nice beam reach, trucking along, boat speed 6.8 knots, 17 knots of breeze, beautiful. So the next step to get the rest of our sails out is the self-tacker sheet. So just give me a minute to prep the boat and I'll show you how that's done. So we're lucky enough to have the electric winch option on this boat. Again, it's a luxury that you don't need, but is definitely worth having if you've got the budget. So it's just a matter of taking the furling line in one hand and then unfurling the head sail with the other as you let that furling line roll through your hands. Beautiful. So welcome back to Windcraft's Insider Reviews. We're still on the Hanse 418. This boat's just about to be handed over, as I mentioned to you before, so she is looking sparkling. She's 100% ready, so all there is now is for the owner to come down tomorrow, so we can actually hand it over to him. But before we do that, we've got the opportunity to walk through and show you a few of the features of the boat before the owner takes it away and starts enjoying it. So I'm just going to run you through some of the aspects of the 418 and what you can expect when you actually step aboard one for the first time. Now, every one of these Hanse videos I seem to start by talking about the space and the light that you get as soon as you walk inside, but nowhere is that more true, in fact, than on the new 418. I do say it a lot because it's true a lot on the Hanse boats. Now, I'll show you a couple of things that really will sort of make that apparent to you from home. So, not only do you have this great big companionway, which is flooding light down into the space, but either side here, you've got additional glass roof panels. So you get a lot of light that comes down over the galley there. As you move into these back cabins here, which we'll show you in more detail in a minute, because they're actually huge. There's heaps of space in here. You've got an enormous opening hatch above your head here. You've got further skylight to let more light in just here. On this side you've got another opening hatch, so you get a nice cross draft coming in as well. And not just one, but two windows on the side as well, a nice little skylight here that lets a little light in, and an awesome porthole at the side. So they really have taken it to a whole new level for the amount of light that you get in. And whilst we're in here, I'll just point out how much space you do have in these aft cabins. They're both the same size, both aft cabins, but the room you get is amazing. I mean, there's heaps of room in here for not just your clothes, extra storage, storage under the bed as well, but to change, to get a bit of space, and to sit quite comfortably away in your cabin if you want to. Yeah, it's an impressive space. So continuing on the inevitable theme of space and light that we get on these boats, running right the way across the top of the saloon here, you've got one, again, enormous hatch. Lumar manufactured these hatches, and these are some of the largest ones they've ever actually made. So you've got an enormous opening hatch there. You've got another skylight right here. Windows up on the coach house roof on both sides. Great big portholes at the side of the boat as well, so you get that great view through the throughout over the water. As you're sailing, it's a great thing to be able to watch to see the water rushing by. And then further forwards, you've got no less than two opening hatches in the V-berth. One, again, enormous skylight right above me here. Another one just slightly forwards on that side, as well as a third actually inside the bathroom we have here as well. Yet another little port light here, and of course, whole windows on either side. So you do get an incredible amount of light. A lot more than you see on any other boat I've seen to date anyway. Hanse have done some really clever things with the layout on this boat. So it's, as always, very versatile in the way you can set it up. There's loads and loads of options. So you can spec the boat depending on what your intended use is, how many people you're planning to have aboard the boat. The 40-foot range is one of the most versatile ranges. So it's a size that, that most couples are very happy to handle themselves. It gives you so much space without moving up to the 45-foot range, which for some people is a little bit daunting. Now, the sail management systems and the way you actually use the boat is much the same, but the 40-foot tends to encourage people who just want to spend either long weeks or weekends with a couple aboard, but also with the option of having up to 6 or 8 people staying aboard as well. So Hanse are aware of that, and they've come up with some different choices for how you set up the boat. The standard boat comes with a V-berth and a single aft cabin. That's a huge aft portside cabin that you get when you get for the 2-cabin layout. There is obviously a 3-cabin layout, which is what this boat has, which means that rather than a storage area aft starboard on the boat, you get yet another cabin. And it's a huge cabin as well. The port and the starboard aft cabins are actually the same size, so you're not losing anything there. With the standard layout on the boat, you also get an island bed up the front, which is quite rare on a 40-footer. And it does make life a bit easier for a couple getting in and out of bed, not having to clamber past each other. V-berths are great, but the island bed option you get is cleverly done because they've actually moved the whole bed aft slightly, meaning that it's much wider at both ends. And they've also added further storage at the forward end of that bed. Now this boat actually has the 3-cabin option along with the additional heads, which is a great feature. So a 40-foot boat with a dedicated guest bathroom and shower, as well as a dedicated owner bathroom and shower. So if you come forwards, we'll have a quick look. So true to form, Hanse have provided a proper nav table on this boat. So nav tables, you're seeing them less and less on boats this size. I'm a bit of a stickler for the old school. I love having a nav table. Not so much for getting charts out on. These days, if I need to get charts out to do navigation, I tend to use a much bigger saloon table like this. But it's somewhere to have your laptop out, somewhere to keep your log, and for all the essentials that you're going to need in here. Those of you who have boats will know how quickly the space fills up with all the essentials you need. And it's a really handy go-to spot, so I'm glad they've kept that there. This particular option can actually push down, so you can push this right down to this level, and there's extra cushions to go on top, so you can increase the sleeping area in the saloon as well. So it's a handy thing to be able to do. Not everyone opts for that. It depends how many people you think you're going to be going away for the weekend or for the week with, but it is nice to know you're able to do it. As usual, a very cleverly, simply laid out Nav Station area. Your control panel here controls all the major electrical components of the boat. So it's all very user-friendly, very clear and easy to see what you're doing. You've got the controller for your inverter charger, which this boat has fitted. Your VHF radio, obviously, stereo, essential, bilge pump alarms, and handheld charging station for your VHF. So it's a simply and cleanly laid out area. Down under here, there's an example I'm going to give you which shows you just how diligently and thoroughly the Germans do build their boats. It's quite rare in production boats nowadays to be able to see just how much care and attention to detail is taken behind the scenes. So if I pull this little panel out here, you can see you have your main fuse board and your main circuit breakers on the panel just here. Easy enough to access should you need to, but the joy is that everything is clearly labeled in English. So every little component on here is beautifully laid out. A lot of care and attention has been taken to the way this is all set up. There's no shortcuts, everything's proper gauge, beautifully labeled and very cleanly laid out. So it's generally very important for you to have at least a basic understanding of how the electrics on your boat works, particularly if you're going to be heading off somewhere remote. And when you've got your family and friends aboard, you do want to know that should something stop working, that you instantly know where you need to go to look to fix it, and that everything's suitably labeled so that you can fix it really easily. So the Germans have done an excellent job of making sure that that the essential part of staying safe and staying in control of your boat really is taken care of. So I touched earlier on the bathroom options that you have on this boat. So you can have a single heads as standard, or you can opt to have the additional second owner's heads up in the V-berth. Just pop your head in there for a second and have a look at the size you get. Again, for a 40-footer, you're certainly not cramped by any stretch in that bathroom. You get a screen that actually separates the shower area from the rest of the bathroom, so that if people want to go in there and brush their teeth and do all that sort of stuff at the end of the day, they're not going to get everything soaking wet. It's a nice, well-divided, separated space. You can obviously get options, either an electric heads on this or a manual heads. Depends entirely on your preference. All that sort of stuff can be customized either from the factory or when the boat gets here to Australia. In keeping with the theme of making everything easy to manage, the technical side of the boat being accessible and easy to understand, as you'd expect, the Hanse has it in buckets and spades. So the motor that we have down here is a Yanmar 4JH57. This is the upgraded engine choice. You can get a 39 horsepower engine as standard, which is more than ample. But if you do want that bit of extra grunt, that bit of extra power and speed underway, then the upgraded engine is an option. Now, in this space, not only do they have a little automatic light, which is, makes life nice and easy, you also have access panels on both sides. So both on the port and the starboard side, both those side panels actually pull out, which gives you excellent all-around access to the engine. So when you need to come down here to do your daily checks to make sure that your fluids are right, check the engine over, everything is really accessible and really easy to get to. It's just a nicely laid out engine room. So Galley Space on the Hanses is always one of their trump cards. It's a simple but really nicely laid out galley. You've got a single sink here, which is actually divided into two sections. And these little cutouts do give you that extra space that you need when you're preparing. Similarly with your fridge, so you get a really quite large fridge with a top opening section as well as a little lower opening section down at the bottom here. So it's actually a single fridge. It's very, very efficient, so it uses hardly any electricity, which is obviously important when you're on a boat. And there are various options and extras you can get for your kitchen as well. So this owner has opted to have the microwave as well. It's not gimbaled, so it's hard to use at sea, but when you're at a marina or at anchor, it's a really handy thing to have. As with all of the galleys on the Hanses, you get a decent sized burner stove as well. So you've got plenty of space to chuck your roast chicken in there, to cook whatever it is you need. Most of the time it'll be garlic bread, in my experience anyway. That's pretty much the only thing we cooked in there. But a nice lasagna, whatever it is you want to do, you've got plenty of space to be able to do that. And they haven't skimped on the storage either. So you've got really quite nice deep cupboards. They all come with pre-cut out sections so that your cups and your various utensils don't roll about. And in fact, we can customize all of these spaces as well during the commissioning. So we have shipwrights and craftsmen here at Windcraft who can work with you once you've decided what you want, once you've bought all your equipment for the boat, and actually kit that out so that there's a place for everything and everything can go in its place, which is a nice seaman-like way of doing things. So it's always important on a boat to make sure that there's somewhere to keep your wine. And the Germans certainly haven't neglected that. Now, if we look in the table here, secret little stash is just a really smart little clever piece of design work. Trouble is it's quite obvious that it's there because of this smart silver button. So you're not going to keep that hidden from your guests for very long. This, on the other hand, is an even better hidey hole. So you're more likely to be able to stash your valuable better bottles of wine down there without everyone getting to them before you want to. So that's the interior of the Hanse 418. You won't be surprised to hear me say that it is surprising, the space and the airiness you get in here. It really is an impressive space, and until you've been on one, you really won't be able to tell just how spacious it feels for a 40-footer. And the layouts as well are so versatile that whether you're a couple who want to go on your extended cruising, whether you're a family who want to use it at the weekends, whether you are two couples with kids, you've got space for 6-8 plus people to sleep on here if you get the configuration right, and you won't feel cramped doing that, particularly if you have the 2 bathrooms option. So a hugely versatile boat, as you would have seen earlier, an awful lot of fun to sail, well built by the Germans, and there's no surprise really that it's one of Hanse's best sellers. So hope you like it.